Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama.
श्री राधा गोकुल भगवान की जय, सीताराम लक्ष्मण हनुमान की जय, गौर निताय की जय, जगत गुरु वैष्णव की जय।
He doesn't prefer them. Yeah, it's you get the supply. Did you? That's it. I didn't make it. There was some kind of facilitating the. I don't know what my friend did. Yeah, it says David for the class and then you for the, I mean David for facilitation and then you for
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Udanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Vijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Gyana Chimrayandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakchurun Militanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutaye Swayam Rupa Kadadmayam Dadatisva Padantikam. Vandiham Shri Guru Shri Uttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunat Tanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha kalpa tarubhascha kripa sindhu bhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, I'd like to request the blessings of all the devotees who are assembled, and also to those who are watching online, so that I may be able to speak something of worthwhile today in this Bhagavad Gita class. So today we're reading from chapter 5, text 2. Okay. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sannyasa Karma Yogascha Nishreyasya Karavabhu Tayostu Karma Sannyasat Karma Yogo Vishishyate. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sannyasa Karma Yogascha Nisreyasya Karavabhu Tayostu karma sanyasat. Karma yogo vishishyate. Shri Bhagavan uvacha. Sanyasa karma yogascha. Nishreyasya karav ubu. Tayostu karma sanyasat. Karma yogo vishishyate. Okay. Shri Bhagavan uvacha. Sanyasa karma yogascha. Nisrisyasya karavobu. Tayostu karma sanyasat. Karma yogo vishishyate. Shri Bhagavan uvacha. Sanyasa karma yogascha. Nisreyasya karavobu. Tayostu karma sanyasat. Karma yogo vishishyate. And the translation. The personality of Godhead replied, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation, but of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work. And one more time of the translation. The personality of Godhead replied, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation, but of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work. Fruitive activities, seeking sense gratification, are cause for material bondage. As long as one is engaged in activities aimed at improving the standard of bodily comfort, one is sure to transmigrate to different types of bodies, thereby continuing material bondage perpetually. Srimad Bhagavatam 5:5-4-6 confirms this as follows. Nunam pramataha kurate vikarma yad indriya pritaya aprinoti nasadu manyate yata atmanoyam asanapi klesa da asadeha parabhava stavad aboda jato yavana jin nasata atma tattvam yavat kriyas tavad idam manovai karmat makam yena sarira bandha eva mana karma vasam preyunkte avidye yatman yupadi yamane pritirna yavan mai vasudeve namuchyate deha yogena tattvat. People are mad after sense gratification, and they do not know that this present body, which is full of miseries, is a result of one's fruitive activities in the past. Although this body is temporary, it is always giving one trouble in many ways. Therefore, to act for sense gratification is not good. One is considered to be a failure in life as long as he makes no inquiry about his real identity. As long as he does not know his real identity, he has to work for fruitive results, for sense gratification. And as long as one is engrossed in the consciousness of sense gratification, one has to transmigrate from one body to another. Although the mind may be engrossed in fruitive activities and influenced by ignorance, one must develop a love for devotional service to Vasudeva. Only then can one have the opportunity to get out of the bondage of material existence. Therefore, jnana or knowledge that one is not this material body but spirit soul is not sufficient for liberation. One has to act in the status of spirit soul, otherwise there is no escape from material bondage. Action in Krishna consciousness is not, however, action on the fruitive platform. Activities performed in full knowledge strengthen one's advancements in real knowledge. Without Krishna consciousness, mere renunciation of fruitive activities does not actually purify the heart of a conditioned soul. As long as the heart is not purified, one has to work on the fruitive platform. But the action in Krishna consciousness automatically helps one escape the result of fruitive action, so that one need not descend to the material platform. Therefore, action in Krishna consciousness is always superior to renunciation, which always entails a risk of falling. Renunciation without Krishna consciousness is incomplete, as is confirmed by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 12258. Prapanchikataya buddhya hari sambandhi vastuna mumuksubi parityago vairagyam falgu katyate. When persons eager to achieve liberation renounce things related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking them to be material, the renunciation is called incomplete. Renunciation is complete when it is in the knowledge that everything in existence belongs to the Lord, and that no one should claim proprietorship over anything. One should understand that factually, nothing belongs to anyone. Then where is the question of renunciation? One who knows that everything is Krishna's property is always situated in renunciation. Since everything belongs to Krishna, everything should be employed in the service of Krishna. This perfect form of action in Krishna consciousness is far better than any amount of artificial renunciation by a sannyasi of the Mayavadi school. So in the purport it mentions a very important verse. This verse is that for one who actually wants to fully overcome material desires and the material platform, what you actually have to develop is love and real love for Godhead. So it's mentioned in terms of one who doesn't have this higher taste, that he will actually, it's artificial renunciation and he will actually fall down. It's we can see that in the material world, the purest love is the love that a mother has for their child, and the reason for this is that love is something which is it's just natural, and it's without any expectations. So considering a mother and a child, the mother isn't actually expecting anything from the child. It's just selfless. So this is what this is actually the closest form to that we can see, that is of the most purest expression. So like that mother for the child, one has to develop, as it says in the purport, love like that for Vasudeva or Krishna. So it's mentioned, actually I was listened to a very nice lecture by His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, and he was speaking about the power of the holy name, and that the holy name actually contains everything, and it's very, very powerful. But he also mentioned in terms of love as well, that we have to, that the holy name itself is actually how we actually express our love. So this is how we can't just do devotional service without actually expressing ourselves through the holy name to Krishna. Therefore we won't have the substance. So what's interesting is that everyone we meet, we won't have the parental love or maternal affection that a parent has naturally for everyone else. And when we meet others in this material world, there's a lot of expectations that they have to be in a certain way, to follow a certain etiquette, and they have to to interact in a certain way where they're expected to be of a certain standard so that we can have a proper interaction. So this is where naturally in the material world we'll get frustrated that people won't match this standard, and not everyone, like a child, we can't just express ourselves like that, where we have to look after them and cater for their every need. So in terms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the scriptures there's stages that are mentioned that we develop bhava and then prema, and these are stages where one develops and awakens their true self, and their dormant. It's dormant within everyone is their true Krishna consciousness. So in the scriptures it's prescribed different rules and regulations. So as the saying is, and what Srila Prabhupada said, is to first be conscious and then Krishna conscious. So we have to abide by the 4 regulative principles, to chant a prescribed number of rounds, and this will develop help us to develop our relationship with Krishna, and especially the chanting of the holy name. And this is it's like our phone call with Krishna, that this is a very personal thing. And by Krishna's mercy, actually, the holy name will descend. So in terms of the Dharma for this current age, is the chanting of the Maha Mantra. It's something that His Grace Ananta Gopal Prabhu was mentioning in today's class, that about the holy name, and it's for this age that it's such a rare opportunity, but we have to really take that serious. So we can actually try and make the most of our japa time, and to really concentrate. So there's mentioned that there's in the material world, it's impure, and it's a perverted reflection of love. So it's lust, actually. So it's mentioned, Srila Prabhupada, he explains in his, at this point in the preface to the Nectar of Devotion, which is the summary study of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. In the primary stage, a child loves his parents, then his brothers and sisters, and as he daily grows up, he begins to love his family, society, community, nation, or even the whole human society. But the loving propensity is not satisfied, even by loving all human society. And that loving propensity remains imperfectly fulfilled until we know who is the Supreme Beloved. Our love can be fully satisfied only when it is reposed in Krishna. So in the material world we have all these imperfections, and the problem is that our love isn't reposed in Krishna. It's reposed in everything that we have become accustomed to growing up and experiencing in this world. So one thing that Srila Prabhupada mentioned on his last days, when he was on his deathbed, and his disciples were crowded around him, and he was speaking very softly but still very distinctly and concisely, that he mentioned about the importance of Vanashrama Dharma, and he also said that this is the other 50% as what has to actually be instilled in society. So it's very important that if Varnashrama Dharma is actually implemented, that it will actually be the mechanism, to be the social order by which people can actually get purified. But the problem is, as we can see in this current age, many people, even if they're aware that there is something higher, they're actually not fully interested in actually seeking that because of these attachments. And I'll come more to that later, actually. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj describes the distinction as follows. Lust and love have different characteristics. Just as iron and gold have different natures, the desire to gratify one's own senses is kama, lust, but the desire to please the senses of Lord Krishna is prema, love. So that's why one has to actually try and do everything to please Krishna and to please Guru. And ultimately, things that are done under the mode's material nature, the way this world is designed, will never actually give satisfaction. Here's a poem, actually, just a small poem by an Irish poet, actually, so William Butler Yeats. But it goes, wine comes in at the mouth, and love comes in at the eye. That's all we shall know for truth. But before we grow old and die, I lift the glass to my mouth, I look at you and I sigh. So if we're looking for actually fulfillment in material things and this, what we call love, it's not true love. And ultimately it's going to lead to dissatisfaction. So in the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 7, text 15, Srila Prabhupada he mentions different kind of miscreants. These are duskritina. So another class of duskritina or miscreant is called the Naradama, or the lowest of mankind. Nara means human being, and the Dhamma means the lowest. Out of the 8,400,000 different species of living beings, there are 400,000 human species. Out of these, there are numerous lower forms of human life that are mostly uncivilized. The civilized human beings are those who have regulated principles of social, political, and religious life. Those who are socially and politically developed, but who have no religious principles, must be considered Naradamas. Nor is religion without God religion. Because the purpose of following religious principles is to know the supreme truth and man's relation with him. In the Gita, the personality of Godhead clearly states that there is no authority above him and that he is the supreme truth. The civilized form of human life is meant for man's receiving the lost consciousness of his eternal relation with the supreme truth, the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, who is all-powerful. Whoever loses this chance is classified as Naradama. We get information from revealed scriptures that when the baby is in the mother's womb, which is an extremely uncomfortable situation, he prays to God for deliverance and promises to worship him alone as soon as he gets out. To pray to God when he is in difficulty is a natural instinct in every living being because he is eternally related with God. But after his deliverance, the child forgets the difficulties of birth and forgets his deliverer also, being influenced by Maya, the illusory energy. It is the duty of the guardians of children to revive the divine consciousness dormant in them. The 10 processes of reformatory ceremonies, as enjoined in the Manusmriti, which is the guide to religious principles, are meant for reviving God consciousness in the system of Varnashrama. However, no process is strictly followed now in any part of the world, and therefore 99.9% of the population is Naradama. When the whole population becomes Naradama, naturally all their so-called education is made null and void by the all-powerful energy of physical nature. According to the standard of the Gita, a learned man is he who sees on equal terms the learned Brahmana, the dog, the cow, the elephant, and the dog eater. That is the vision of a true devotee. Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who is the incarnation of Godhead as Divine Master, delivered the typical Naradamas, the brothers Jagai and Madai, and showed how the mercy of a real devotee is bestowed upon the lowest of mankind. So the Naradama who is condemned by the personality of Godhead can again revive his spiritual consciousness only by the mercy of a devotee. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in propagating Bhagavata Dharma, or activities of the devotees, has recommended that people submissively hear the message of the personality of Godhead. The essence of this message is Bhagavad Gita. The lowest amongst human beings can be delivered by this submissive hearing process only, but unfortunately they even deny giving an oral reception to these messages, and what to speak of surrendering to the will of the Supreme Lord. Naradamas, or the lowest of mankind, will willfully neglect the prime duty of the human being. So that's why they're considered the lowest of mankind, that they willfully neglect. They may be aware that there is something higher, but due to their attachments, they won't even give an oral reception. They don't want to hear about it. So the thing is about a devotee, in terms of renunciation of work, this may be beneficial for some. Maybe they have a personal relationship with Krishna, even that where they feel it's okay just to live their life in that way, in rare cases. But ultimately, a devotee of the Lord, they'll feel compassion, and they'll want to actually preach Krishna consciousness. And this was exemplified by Srila Prabhupada, actually. I'll just quickly read a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's in Canto 7. Prayena deva muniya svavi mukti kama munam karanti vijane na pravarta nista netan vihaya kripanam vimumuksa eko nayam svad asya saranam brahmato nupasye. My dear Lord Nrsimhadev, I see that there are many saintly persons indeed, but they are interested only in their own deliverance. Not caring for the big cities and towns, they go to the Himalayas or the forest to meditate with vows of silence, Munavrata. They are not interested in delivering others. As for me, however, I do not wish to be liberated alone. Leaving aside all these poor fools and rascals, I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Therefore I wish to bring them back to shelter at your lotus feet. So that's it's the compassion which is actually the driving force, that and also to please Krishna, that they want to not just to leave these people who are in the modes of passion and ignorance primarily, and they're really suffering in ignorance with a lack of insight. Even if they are Naradamas, they don't want to hear about it, but they'll still go on perpetually, that they need mercy to descend upon them. Something which I read was very interesting, that Srila Prabhupada, while his health was good and while he really pushed himself as much as he could to actually utilize his time to spread Krishna consciousness. There's different examples where he goes to these places which are very unlikely, one might think logically, to spread Krishna consciousness. Like he went to Russia, which is a communist country where practically God was not spoken about, and he spoke with a professor there, and everything was they were being watched by the security and the government, and he happened to meet the son of the Indian ambassador and his friend, who was called Ivan, who was a Russian actually, and he was very, very enthusiastic. So they brought this Indian, the son of the Indian ambassador, and his friend Ivan to their hotel room, and Shama Sundar, he gave them gave Ivan a copy of the Bhagavad Gita, and they spoke at length for quite some time to explain the Bhagavad Gita. And then this actually is what sowed the seed for Krishna consciousness, just this one meeting in Russia, in such a restricted circumstance that the mercy of devotee happened to prevail, and from there copies of Bhagavad Gita were actually made and distributed in due course of time. Also in Africa, actually, Srila Prabhupada, he first went to Nairobi, and he wanted to gain a foothold in each continent. So in Nairobi in Kenya, there were quite a few Indians and then the Africans, but they didn't mix, they were saying, and they both kept to themselves pretty much. So in that sense, it was quite difficult to preach to the Africans, and the devotees who were there previously, they didn't know how to do this. So through the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, he was given the intelligence to know what to do. So there was I believe it was, I'm not sure if it was a local Hindu temple or a town hall, but they had a certain location. So he told the devotees to go there and just play kirtan and leave the doors open. So that's what they did. And then in a matter of time, out of curiosity, the local Africans, they started to investigate, and in a short space of time, the whole building was completely crowded with Africans, and they were all dancing actually to the kirtan. Even though they didn't know anything about the philosophy or anything, but they were still joyous. And that was just a simple tactic which actually it overcame the barriers and any sectarian challenges. So thank you very much for listening to the class, and if there are any questions, I'd be very happy to answer. Yes, Bishop. Sorry, preaching. Yes. Yes, Bishal Prabhu, he asked the question, why is preaching so important and of a service to Krishna? That's, if I'm correct. So my answer for that would be that Krishna, he also we have some qualities of Krishna, not the full qualities. So Krishna, he has his 6 opulences, and Krishna is also he's the most renounced, and he's full of compassion for everyone. So naturally, Krishna is the father of every living entity, and very much so that if any parent sees their children in a suffering condition, they want them to come back to them, even though it's Krishna's mercy as well that he gives everyone independence. So we have our own choice, like the Naradamas, that they'll willfully not hear. So Krishna is so pleased when a devotee will actually sacrifice their time to preach and to actually to bring these conditioned souls back to the lotus feet of Krishna. So that's such an important thing. I can't say the actual scriptures, but I've heard that Lord Chaitanya, that devotees have mentioned this many times about Lord Chaitanya becoming so pleased that he bestows his mercy upon people so much. Thank you. when they actually preach Krishna consciousness. So if one is doing Harinam, they have the actual favor of Lord Chaitanya to actually to spread the teachings. And it's said that Krishna is actually crying for everyone to come back to him. So like us, we have to try and cry for Krishna, but Krishna himself is already crying for everyone to come back to him. So for all his children and his parts and parcels, it's such a big thing for Krishna that he actually, it's a personal relationship, and we have to develop our love for Krishna, but Krishna already has that love for every other living entity. So Krishna it's complete satisfaction when a devotee is liberated and comes back to him. Thank you. Okay. Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, all assembled devotees ki, Jai.